He didn't come in. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Midwest Paratalk Radio. I'm the G-Man. This is Deb. We're doing things a little bit different tonight uh, because everything is jacked. It reminds me of a Limp Bizkit song. There, there, just one of those days. Uh, so thank you guys for checking us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Podomatic.com as well as all of the other major podcast platforms as well as Rumble. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And I'm having, it's been a weird flipping day. Okay. Well, it all started. Cue the weird music. It all started Saturday. We had an investigation.
Did
And
you bring
by
something home with you? What's wrong?
I don't know, man. I think the gremlins followed me up in here. But um, we did the investigation. She was using a Ouija board, didn't use it right, and
You already know that's not good.
right. So, to say the least, I got to turn up my headphones because they're way too low.
You
All right,
better
here we
not.
go.
You ain't doing that when I'm coming. We have a guest that's waiting in the wings here, and
He's
uh,
not. He's not in the wings.
I mean, he's not in the wings. He's waiting for a link, and I just messaged him again. Maybe,
It's in his. Tell him to check his junk mail because chances are it went to his junk mail.
well,
But
he got it the last time.
the link is in the subject line.
Okay.
So it was a different investigation. It was the house was very small, and I got some weird EVPs. Um, and then Sunday, my computer started acting stupid. I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, well, it's been 2 years since I reformatted it. So I was like, I'll just reformat. So I'm trying to back everything up. I lost the intro to the show. I lost a bunch of JPEGs that I had stored back for like VIP stuff and NPR stuff, and had to load everything on there. And sorry, my nose was itching. I mowed the yard today. Um, and I can't find anything. I had to log into all my links. Thank God I have a password manager. You ever use password managers? No.
No,
They're
he said he
like,
hasn't gotten anything yet. Can you just email the link to me and I'll
oh,
forward it to him?
love of God, man.
I've never,
Jesus Christ.
we never had so much. Yeah, and then I lost computer. We were just
Yeah.
about to go on, and bam, internet's gone. I heard Greg go, "Oh no," and then everything went spinny, spinny.
Okay. Okay. So his email, I have his email.
Okay,
The contact dot. I won't say it out loud
yeah,
because no one else needs to know it.
right.
So I'm going down, click the invite, click the copy. I'm just doing this now so everyone knows that I'm not a complete and utter moron and I know how to send emails.
Yeah.
Okay, so the link is in the subject line.
Okay.
Click, and it's coming from gcable at midwestparatalkradio.com. And if you have any comments, concerns, or would like to be on the show, please shoot me an email at gcable at midwestparatalkradio.com. Sending.
Okay.
Do. And it sent. You know what would be cool?
What?
If we could like go to the Rhodes Hotel.
We are.
Oh no, we're not.
Yes, we are.
So okay, we're going to the Rhodes Hotel on the 8th of June in Atlanta, Indiana, and it's going to be live streamed. So you guys can watch us in action. If you go to youtube.com/ at Boomville Paranormal SOCI, you'll be able to watch us live there because we're going to go live there and it's going to be pretty awesome. And you can also check
Yeah.
out their Facebook page. Boonville, Indiana Paranormal Society, and you can watch Deb and I in action, and with the rest of the team with Bips, and it's going to be a good time. The last time we were there, it was phenomenal, so I expect it to be
Yeah.
super phenomenal this time. We had an investigation last weekend. We have an investigation this weekend, and then we have the Rhodes Hotel the following weekend. So 3 weekends in a row, we're investigating. So it's pretty hype. I like that. Other than having to go through all the damn evidence, I've got DVDs coming out of my yin yang.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I can't wait. I'm excited because the last time we went. Oh, that's not even right. What did I do this? I was trying to send him the link from.
Did he still not get it through email?
He said, "We're just right on there, aren't we?" He said he got it and he was signing in, but
okay,
I don't
know.
He'll
be here. So even Ian Campbell is going to be on. Is it Campbell or Campbell?
Campbell.
Campbell. Some people pronounce it like I had a guy I worked with way back in the day at Lilly. He pronounced it Campbell. And I'm like, okay, dude, right on. I've never. I mean, that's how it's spelled, but I've never heard anyone in the Midwest pronounce it like that. But you know, we talk funny here anyway. And that was an Australian as well telling me that, so you can take that with a grain of salt. What happened?
Nothing.
And so I couldn't find the show intro. That's why it was a little different. And I can't find the outros because I reformatted. Then Deb's not at her home and the internet dropped where she's at.
Yeah, I'm at my son's. If you notice, the background is different. I don't have my usual happy place here. I'm in my grandma's room at my son's house on my laptop, and
you're in the ensuite.
I'm in the ensuite. Yes, and I have my little. I don't know if I sound different or not because I got my little USB headset thing, and
a little bit,
you know. And then just as we were to sign on, the internet nosedived here, so my son had to go down and reboot the whole system. And it's like, what? This is just not. This is the stars are just not lining up here.
This is reminiscent of the shows we used to do way back in the day.
I sent them I just went in and sent him the link that I copied it and pasted it, and I don't know where he's at.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
Oh no, what was that?
I'm not sure. Somebody's at the door. That's weird. Nobody's here? Nope. Nobody's here. The dog saved us
from the invisible man.
From the invisible man. So yeah, it's been obviously it's on par because this is like the weirdest show we've done in a while. I remember when we were getting EVPs and whatnot out of doing the shows, just like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Every time we talked about UFOs, our shows would crash. It was
yes,
crazy.
It looks like our guest is here.
Ian is here. Let's pull him on.
Yeah, pull him in. Yay!
I'm unflappable, I think, just like the two of you. This is insane.
I know.
I feel bad for you guys. And the weirdest thing was the the fact that it went into my junk folder and yet I had it residing in my inbox, but it didn't have the link. And then I try to get into StreamYard, which I've used before, and it kept saying your browser is a problem. Your browser is a problem. So I just good God, you know what the gremlins do. This is nothing new to
Tell me
you.
about it. Right.
But tell me, how is that damaging your audience's expectation?
Not at all.
No,
Not at all.
our
They don't-
audiences are used to it.
Right? They don't expect much from us.
Oh, well, that's good. Then we'll just lower the bar even more. How's that tonight?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, our show is about paranormal stuff. So, I mean, this is just par for the course here.
Right,
Well,
right.
I did one. I know you probably want to get going ASAP, but do we have just 2 minutes just to?
We got all the time you want. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well, okay. How about mid-June? We'll be ready. The interesting thing is I've watched a number of your shows and I've really enjoyed them, but I noticed so many people have a story arc because they've got so much recall of everything that they can put together a linear story. I have so many memory fragments and so many things that don't allow that. So I think when I talk, I'm going to be all over the place. So I'm going to need you guys to reel me in because I'll be out there like on the other side of the universe and you're going to, what the hell is he talking about? So if you could do that. And then also I want to pepper in a bit of the paranormal shit.
No, you're good.
good.
We own the place.
You're good.
So
I've got a mouth on me sometimes, so I apologize.
You fit right in.
So yeah, I think if I pepper stuff in, it's going to be kind of a smorgasbord of encounters and stories. But I really hope that you will like, please don't go and do your laundry when I'm talking because
My
I'll
gosh.
be left out here in the dark. But
No.
so other than that, if the audio is good and the video is good, what do you want me to comply to make your program that much better and your guests to be that much more
Listen,
understood?
I'm just happy to have the internet back.
Oh, you poor thing. Isn't it awful? I do video production and one of the jobs that I do is we do a lot of conference support. So we travel with 7 laptops to all these jobs. And we have 2 working laptops left because ever since I got into this going down this damn rabbit hole, most of them aren't working now. And even the one that I'm working with now, I shouldn't even be talking about this. Knock on a granite counter. I can't even use I can't use any earbuds with the computer and the little 3.5 mini jack. It doesn't work. So I have to be careful. If you hear any feedback, I'm doing my best so that it'll work for you.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, sounds
that's
good.
But I just gonna say, what a pleasure, Deb. I've known you. I've known you from our meetings, which I won't mention, by name tonight.
Yeah.
But this is a true treat. And Greg, seeing you on this channel, I've enjoyed it. So whenever you're ready, if you think I'm ready, tell me what you'd like me to start with.
Yeah.
Let's jump in the deep end.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. We're glad we finally made it. We persevered and here we are. Don't worry about the time. I want to let you know that right away. There's nobody behind us. We could talk all night. It's no worries whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
I just haven't heard you sign off on, or at least agree to maybe something more conversational, because I think it's such a gift and you're probably going, he's pretty long-winded as it is. He'll be okay. But I think when you're left to your own devices, it can be dangerous. So again, do you do conversational things or no?
We do both. We do whatever our guest feels comfortable.
We do whatever the guest wants to do. This is your platform.
I guess as long as I don't end up just listening to you, that's probably not what you want.
No. People don't come here to hear us. They hear.
They
hear
do.
They hear us all the time. They're sick.
Don't give yourself a hard time. Also, I'm trying to look up, which I find hard to do. So my eye line is a bit better than looking down. Does it matter if I do a little bit of both, or
you do whatever you are comfortable with? Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to my kitchen.
Well, and just move you wherever you want to go.
Yeah, no, that's great. So glad you guys are both back. Sorry about the junk mail, but we're here and we're accounted for, I think.
We're good.
We're good to go.
Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to start out by just maybe really, kind of letting our listeners are varied. I mean, we have people from the paranormal world. We also have people from the UFO world. Greg's kind of the paranormal dude. I'm the UFO girl. Although we kind of we're all swirled up to now. after all these-
We're all mixed in.
Yeah. But if you could do, if you want to
picture
like just let people know how you came to be here, what experiences you've had that have led you to this place.
I will. And then if you can just direct me a little bit, because
I
as
sure
I said,
will.
I just
Whatever you're
there's
comfortable
always
with.
the apprehension, especially when you're, talking to Deb Cobble and to
Oh,
Greg. It's always a little bit like
Oh,
daunting
please.
because it is, but it's
and
fun too.
look, I understand that. I have a big story. I have a story that spans, 65 years, and
Me
it's hard.
too, but you
And
are
it's
braver
hard.
than me.
It's hard to
Mhm.
it's hard to stay focused on one thing. Sometimes I feel like I come off sounding like, uh squirrel, squirrel, 'cause I'll
Yeah.
go down one and then something
Yeah.
reminds me of something else. I go down that and then an hour later I'm
Oh
still
yeah.
talking. So I know how you feel. I know what you're
Absolutely.
thinking.
Well, then let's launch into this, have some fun, and what a
Yeah.
pleasure to meet you both. So thank you very
Just
much.
let's just have fun and
Yeah,
you know, do your thing.
I will. Whatever that may be.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So how for you're in
I'm
you're
in Toronto.
you're in Canada.
I am. And did you get
Beautiful
the
place.
email about me finding? Because I used to work in the newsroom in the building that you did that interview with Deanie Petty,
Oh,
Oh
yes,
and
I remember.
I know I haven't seen her for years, but I knew Deanie Petty very well. So it's kind of interesting how things come full circle.
It is that, and she was so nice, and I was so scared, and that was probably one of the very, very
Oh,
early things
can
that
we
I
leave
did.
this for? Because I do want to. Can I mention that on the show?
Yes.
Absolutely,
Okay, then
whatever.
let's just start and let it be what it is.
Yeah.
Well, again, what a pleasure. I'm so excited. I actually am really excited.
Oh,
So
bless
this
your
is
heart.
great.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. And thanks, by the way, before that starts, for reading that little treatise or that little thing about that program that Matthew and I are trying to
Oh yeah, yeah,
develop. So I appreciate you doing that.
yeah. That sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Um, but you are so you are in the film industry,
Yeah, I
I
left
guess.
it. Yeah, I can even bring that up because then we won't have anything to talk about. It's all off channel. So yeah, I can tell you a little bit about my background if you want, or I can tell you now, whatever's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're
Let's
on.
go
We're
ahead.
live. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're,
We're not live now, are we?
We
yeah,
are
we are.
live.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
It's
This is what I.
no, it's great.
Anyway, okay, then we'll pick up from where we left off. Yeah, I worked in the film business probably for 25, 30 years. And I started out really young doing some acting and doing commercials, got my union card, and then I worked on a lot of projects doing stand-in work for a lot of actors over the years. And it was a great paycheck. And it was also freelance. So there was lots of time off. But when you were busy, you were busy. Got very friendly with a number of people in the camera departments on various shows so that I could learn a lot about working with cameras, and then started to do my own stuff. And then it's led into doing more commercial work in industrial kind of films and that sort of thing. Lots of travel. And as
Fun.
I'm getting older, that starts to not be as fun as it kind of used to be. And age creeps
Not
up
when it's
on you.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, you do what you have to do. And we were
Uh-huh.
talking earlier about computer gremlins and glitches and things that happen to us when we're in this realm. And I'm no stranger to that. I don't know whether this was live when we were talking about the computer problems, but I have 7 gaming laptops that I use for video editing on the road, and only 2 of them work. And they've never been problematic until I really got involved with this topic. And I'm really new to this stuff. Like, I've had a lifetime of experience. It's weird how you can have a lifetime of experience and yet it's still new. And that's because when I was an infant, I recall, and it's so weird because I don't think anyone really truly believes that an infant or a newborn is going to have memory. But I have memories of being bathed by, and the only thing I can describe the experience as is being on a conveyor belt system where I'm traveling down a conveyor belt with other children that would be, I don't know whether we were newborns or whether we were a couple of weeks old, but we were certainly younger than toddlers, but we were coming down this conveyor belt where, to the best of my knowledge, the best description is we were tended to by tall nurses who were bathing us, inspecting us. And there was like a little wash station at the side of this contraption that was moving us along. And that would be my earliest memory. Now, I wonder if I'm really remembering that, or if because of my ET experiences, I've been given that memory as, or at least they allowed me to be able to reach back into the recesses of my memory to recall something like that, because it's so vivid and it's so real. And even before I knew anything about what a tall white was, I just remember these. I think they were female. They were dressed in garb that looked very much like a nurse, but from a bygone area, like a bygone era from the like 1940s or 30s. It was of
Mhm.
times past. So that was my first memory, and then moving forward from that, the memories came at probably about 4 or 5 years old when we were living in a house. Prior to that, we were living in an apartment. I don't recall it. Well, I do recall things happening, but it might have been more on a soul or a consciousness level. I recall living in an apartment building with the window from my bedroom looking north. Now, we moved from that building when I was 2 years old. So how the hell I have recall of going out that window. Now, my mother had a friend that lived next door in an old mansion that's long since been torn down to make room for condos and, new progress, so to speak. But I remember flying over that house. A guy named Len Flood, long dead, owned that place. And I can see the roof of his house clearly. Like, why would I have memories of that? About a half mile or maybe a third of a mile going north on a major street called Avenue Road, there's a boys' college, boys' school called Upper Canada College that had a clock tower with an illuminated face. And I remember flying up there and being near that clock, and it happening on many occasions. Did it really happen? I don't know. Was it something that where I was bilocating and traveling? I certainly don't know, but it's so indelible, and it's kind of wired into my experience base, and I stand by it, but I just don't really understand it. Moving on from there, when we moved into a house, my mother would often drive my brother at lunch, after lunch, to high school. He was, or is, 12 years older than I am. So often, if I didn't want to go, if I was playing with toys or things and I just didn't want to go, she was fine to leave me for 10 minutes, as 5-minute drive to take my brother to school and another 5 to come back. On a couple of occasions, I recall laughter, voices, and all kinds of crap erupting in terms of just disturbances in the house. I'm under the bed, terrified. She comes home. I don't think she believed me, but it was as real as real can be. Um, moving, I'm telling all this in very choppy, but I'm just giving you a bunch of these experiences.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
you're good.
just, to make a point that you've had these experiences for your
Yeah.
all
And
your whole life.
well, yeah. And the one that was in the same house, this was not in the house that I'm in now,
Mhm,
um, in my bedroom late at night, out of the blue, the toys are lifting off of the dresser,
mhm.
and they're not hitting anything, but they're spinning around like crazy. Again, I'm terrified. They probably fell to the ground. I don't remember, but I did go running into my mother's room, just terrified. And I can't remember if she let me stay with her that night, but I do remember that kind of thing happened a couple of times where I did end up staying with her.
Mhm.
But if the toys fell to the ground, neatness was not my strong suit, so I don't. That room wouldn't have looked any different whether they flew around or
Mhm.
whether they didn't.
Now
But
that
then,
sounds more like paranormal activity almost.
oh, there's a bunch of this stuff that's kind of
Mhm.
peppered in with the craft experiences. And I saw a show that you did the other day, and I think it was either Greg or maybe it was you, Deb, that was asking one of your guests if they feel that there's a correlation or if there's
Yeah.
a relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could ask me now, and my answer will be what it will be now. And next week, it's going to be something different because I go back
Yeah.
and forth about that.
Yeah.
wondering what it's all about. But I think if we exist on this third plane that we exist in,
Mhm.
if these are experiences that are coming through to us, I think there's got to be some sort of a relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe next
Oh,
week I'll say no.
yeah.
I don't know. But moving on from that, my mom had I remember a little garden party, and she had a ton of guests, and I was probably about 5 years old, and we're in the backyard, and a fellow that was there, I didn't know him. I looked up to the sky and I saw what I thought was a craft. And I asked, "What is that?" And this guy, this guest that my mom had over, looked at it. I remember him just looking at me going, "That's God." And I'm going, I remember that. I'm in my 60s now, and I remember that because it felt his reaction to that was profound.
Mhm.
What it was, I don't know, but his reaction was not what I expected, and I remember it well. Moving ahead, which there's other stuff that's happened in between, but my most memorable, I guess, the most indelible encounter I ever had was, and it happened when I was living in this house because this was my mom's house. She
Oh,
passed
okay.
away in 2002, but when I was 12, I was camping in the backyard with a good friend, and I wasn't particularly interested in UFOs or what might be out there, other than just wanting to look at the night sky. So we both had our feet, probably as I remember, in the tent, but our bodies, our upper bodies, were looking out of the tent, and we were looking up. And the maple tree that's still in the backyard wouldn't have been as mature as it is now, and we could see above it, we could see the stars, and I loved that. But I think
Mhm.
my friend got tired of it, in short order. He went back into the tent, and I just stayed outside to look up. And all of a sudden, this craft came over, slowly came over, and I don't even know if it stopped because my memory is not that clear right now, but I do remember clearly it was a neon fluorescent green, very bright. And I've heard other people describe things that kind of contain the light. Didn't
Mhm.
didn't seem like it was casting light to the ground or to the tree. But I'm looking at it, and the thing that I know about myself more than I mean, I completely know that I'm a scaredy cat, usually.
I was
And
for I feel I can relate to that.
yeah, I don't think I am really anymore because I really,
No.
but where I am is I think the fight or flight response is something that is really the hard thing to get over because we're wired with it.
Oh, yeah.
But so this thing comes over, and I heard Richard Dolan talking about this, about other people having a similar response where there was no fear whatsoever. It was like it was as benign as a city cab going by or a bus going by.
Mhm.
I'm just looking at it like, oh, I mean, I knew it was unusual, but I wasn't processing it that way. It went on, and then I go back into the tent. Do you think I told my friend what I saw? Absolutely nothing. I just had no compulsion to say anything. The
Mhm.
next day or whenever I saw my mom, didn't say a word. That is the biggest conundrum to me is why the hell didn't I say anything? Because
You
at
know,
that
that
age,
a lot of people are like that. I mean, that seems common, and you see things that you don't understand, and what are you supposed to say? How could you say? You know what I mean?
but it wasn't even like that because
Mhm.
um I had a relationship with my mom where I'd be completely fine to say that. I don't think I was supposed to say anything because I didn't tell my friend, I didn't tell
Mhm.
anybody at school. But years later, I thought, what, I've told people, and to be
Mhm.
honest with you, most people haven't, run screaming like this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
They've actually listened, and I think people have been kind of interested that these things,
Mhm.
in fact, can and do happen.
Right.
So that one really cemented my total belief that all the earlier stuff really did in fact happen.
Mhm.
So so that what I did, and probably you did this too, or other people have. There's either you're going to move ahead with it and do something with it, like you've written books and you've told your story.
Mhm.
I didn't go down that road, so I compartmentalized everything and just shoved it to the back. Because what am I going to do with it if I'm not sharing it with people?
Mhm.
I guess maybe even at times I questioned it, but I always had it back there, right?
Yep.
So moving way ahead, many, many, many decades later, Makes it sound like I'm 900, but some days I feel like I am. But in 2020, I went out to Eastern Canada, which I'd never been to before. And a friend of mine had a show that was playing out in Prince Edward Island. And a neighbor said, "Oh, we've got a home there. Come and visit if you're going to be out so close." Got out to PEI. I got out to rather New Brunswick, where I bought a place. Fell in love with it. Saw the price of the real estate to be, by the water. What a deal. So I bought a place. Nothing really happened that first summer, but the second summer, oh my God. Because this was all coming back to me, I was taking pictures over the bay, beautiful sunset. Nothing happened until I looked at the pictures. And one had what looked like a tic tac in it. And an adjacent image had a streak that looked like something streaking in, like maybe the camera or the motion blur or whatever. But there was something streaking in. And then there's a tic tac in the other one where it had either stopped, maybe the streak was coming in, or maybe it was leaving. Didn't think a lot about it. But all of a sudden, I'd never heard of a Kundalini experience. I don't even know if it was a Kundalini experience, but after looking at the pictures, thinking about my past encounters, I just had like an onslaught of pure bliss that like hit hard. And it lasted for a full 6 months. And
Oh,
maybe
wow.
people say, "Oh, that's great." It's like, well, have you ever tried to get to sleep when
Yeah.
you're so wired? After 6 months, it completely abated. It was over, which was fine because it wasn't like a bipolar thing where all of a sudden I was going into a depression. I was just back to normal. But it led to a ton of questions. And the fool that I am always believed if you seek people like you, Deb, that has helped a lot of people, you think when you go and ask the questions, you're going to walk away with answers. You just walk away more confused with more questions, but feeling hugely supported.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. Yeah.
and that support, I'm telling you, is so important. And one person who I know I reached out to, found a web page with Kathy Martin's information. Couldn't find her email, but there was a form that on her web page where it was like you just filled in the form, but it implied that she's an on-camera expert and she's an author and all that. And I thought, crap, she's going to be probably PO that she's getting a letter from or an email from somebody who's making claims about this, that, and the other thing. So after I sent it, I'm like, holy crap, she's going to be pissed. And
Oh.
on the contrary, she wrote back, and we had a number of email exchanges. She turned out to be like a mentor. She was the most supportive, most lovely person on the planet.
She is.
Oh
I
my
feel so
God.
fortunate to know her, and I knew
Yeah.
her aunt as well. But I feel, yeah, she's
The real deal.
she's what who I look up to, that I want to be like.
It's so interesting you say that because, when because of her aunt and uncle's experience in the 60s, I think she said she became really active in the 90s with MUFON and the whole bit.
Yeah.
So she's had over 30 years doing this. And I admire her for several reasons, but the two major reasons is number one, she was a woman in this industry. And you know how maligned women in business have been over, decades and centuries and whatever. Plus the bravery on top to be able to come out and she wasn't telling her story at that point. She was telling that of Barney and Betty. But what was really amazing is when your book came out and I read it, it was around the same time I read Kathy's book, Forbidden Knowledge, I think. Is it
Yeah,
Forbidden Knowledge?
I believe so.
And I'm like, holy crap, this is a story that's not about Barney and Betty, but it's about her being an experiencer. So when I wrote to her, I had no clue that she had encounters or experiences beyond what she was talking about regarding her aunt and uncle. So I thought, wow, she's really amazing to have that confidence. And I think in a couple of interviews I saw, she said, well, I've had my kids, I've had my career, and I've done all this work. So what's there to be afraid? What have I got to lose?
Yeah.
And then that gives her the ability, like, what you do to support people like myself and other experiencers with, all the things that I think that we need when we're kind of trying to find our way in all of this. So no, she's amazing. And then seeing you on that show at City TV with Deanie Petty, I have to say, why was I such a wuss to wait until I'm in my 60s to open my yap when you can do it at a tender age when you had a family and all kinds of things to consider that were important considerations before making that decision?
I I felt compelled to. I felt as if I had to. I didn't want to. It was like someone was pushing me, and I'm like, quit, But I I think it's everyone's different, and it was just my time that I was doing. I was still, keeping my uh, distance and being protected. My kids were little and stuff. I mean, I was in a whole different country, so nobody where I lived was going to see that show, and that was always in the back of my mind. When I first did it, it was like
Yeah.
it was giving me. It was like sticking my toes in the water, and the lady was very nice. She was quite nice,
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, she was really cool when I knew her. I haven't seen her in years. She
but
did
I was
the
terrified.
good God, you did well. And you know what's so weird about that is that a friend of mine around that period, and I wonder if you would remember this, when you came in to Toronto with Bud Hopkins, do you know if you guys did any seminar at a university? Because I remember it was either Bud Hopkins or somebody of his stature who did some seminar, and at the end of it, they were saying, we're going to be here over the weekend, and if anyone feels in the audience that they would like to share, we're going to be here to talk with you. And I was so at that point thinking I really wanted to call the number or however you would get in touch with those that were wanting to help out. But I
Mhm.
chickened out. I thought, oh, I
I
really want
believe
to
he
do it.
did. Yeah, I believe he was doing something like that while we were there.
And I don't know whether you would have gone to that or not, but if so, I would have been there to see you and him both. And I can't remember enough of the evening, but if he did that at some point when I feel qualified, I would love just to listen to people who need to talk, because I think that that's the greatest gift. There's nothing I could say to anybody to make them feel better except, has it been harmful? And if they say
Or
no,
yeah, just
all
like
of mine,
you're here. I'm there with you. I don't
yeah,
have answers for a lot of what people ask and talk about, but I'm a great listener, and I'm here, and I've been through this stuff, and I'm still here, and I'm okay, and you'll be okay too. And that's basically all I can do,
well, that's the you're speaking a truth. I think when you analyze the stuff you've gone through, and I've got memories of being on craft, which I can talk about. But the thing is, um, Kathy Martin talks about this. Most people she's found maybe 80% have either a good or a neutral kind of reaction to what's
Mhm,
occurred to them.
mhm.
And I'd say I fall in the neutral, camp where I don't feel any kumbaya kind of brotherhood or anything with them. But on the other hand, I don't feel that anything that I recall has been really traumatic. Just kind of puzzling and just wanting to know like way more about it than maybe I'm allowed to know.
Well,
Mhm.
you've sent me pictures, and you sent Greg some pictures and also some video clips. Your videos are fascinating, and well, your pictures are great too. Did you do the artwork on that too, by the way?
Which, when you say the artwork, I don't think there's any artwork.
I mean, the pictures that you sent.
All the pictures are screen grabs from the video, and the only thing I can
Okay,
think of that
okay.
might seem artistic is that pill-shaped thing that I zoomed in on that's multicolored.
Oh, yeah, that.
Whatever the hell that was, it was kind of
Well,
unexpected.
the pictures I was, yeah, okay. The pictures I was referring to are like the babies on the conveyor
Oh, those, yeah.
and
That
the bullet tall people and short
I
people.
lied. No, those I was thinking of the the
I'm trying to
more.
figure out how to get him over here into Greg. Can you help me? Trying to get them so we can share some of these with.
Don't, yeah, and don't stress, because if you can't, we can talk. And if Greg can pull them up, great. If not, I'm not at all worried about it.
Which ones do you want me to pull up?
Well, he had talked about his early memories when he was really little, and he had
Okay.
seen what he called babies on the conveyor. Because that's the title of the picture.
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Great. He's my tech. I'm slightly technical. Greg is
Don't believe it. Don't
Greg is
believe it.
the good guy.
You
Just
did it.
and I've seen your pictures. I've seen these pictures. I've seen some of your videos you've shared with me, and I mean your videos are first of all, your equipment is great, I must say.
You know what? Thank you. You know what's really interesting about all this is with the whole CE5 thing.
Yeah.
I never really did anything to reach out to whatever's out there in my life until
I wanted to ask you about that.
It all happened in 2022. I wanted to buy a camera, and I wanted to get one that would clearly see when you're shooting video the stars, and then I got these radios to do this really cool radio protocol, probably similar to what a Spirit Box does, but to try and connect with the ETs. And I think it's really fascinating because when I got the camera, that's the conveyor belt scenario that I was talking about earlier, which is so weird.
Yeah, that's the image is just kind of haunting.
It's so frigging weird. I don't get it. And I don't recall if we were flopping around like that on the conveyor belt or not, but somehow we made it down there safely. But whether it did brain damage, I don't know. It would be.
I don't think so.
It's just weird just having these memories. But going back to the cameras, or if you want to show other images, I can address them if you want, or I can just
hold on one second. I know you had talked about the pill picture, and I think this is it. Yep, it is. All right, I'm going to show this.
It's like blue. Yeah, that's
that because it's so zoomed in. You're seeing a lot of the pixels showing up just as square pixels, but that was in kind of in the corner of one of the frames of video that I caught. And because I do video work, usually when we have a camera video card that fails, you get kind of random all over the frame, like broken up, an image that's broken up. But I've had on a few occasions. Do you see another one, Greg, there that's not as zoomed in? It probably would be adjacent to that. And if not, don't worry about it. And that might just show more of what it might have looked like standing out by the water and seeing something like that. I've seen other people share images like that, and that's probably more. That's a little bit zoomed in, but a lot closer to it not being touched.
It looks like a pill. It looks like a capsule.
Yeah,
it does. It looks like it came through. I think I don't know the date on it might be on the file, but I thought if it came through before Christmas, it was early. It looks really festive with all those colors. So I thought that was really cool. But a lot of these things tend to be just in one frame or two frames, and then some people are filming what they call fast movers using infrared cameras that are shooting at a very fast frame rate, and then slowing the footage down and going through frame by frame by frame by frame to see something very slowly zip through the frame, which I've done, and I found things. But I found it more interesting to let the camera roll for hours and then spend time, scrubbing through the footage. So I think a lot of the captures that I have, I'm lucky to find because I'm sure there's a lot more. But I
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I was going to say, did you just see it was on TMZ of all places, a video. Apparently there was a couple of different times in UFOs sighted over New York City during the day. And they were the ultra fast movers like you're talking of. That's why I thought of it. It had to be slowed down. I don't even know how anybody was able to see it, period, to begin with.
It's really weird. I think if you're looking at something bang on, you don't see it, but you kind of more, I think, can sense these things in your peripheral because I've had luck seeing them in my peripheral. I've never seen anything like that directly on when it's that quick.
Yeah.
It begs the question though, doesn't it? about how prevalent or how many of these things are around us. I don't know what you think, but I think there's so much stuff constantly around us that it's not just they're coming in randomly. I think they move quickly, they're cloaked, they can zip in and out, and they've got us like over a barrel when it comes to, trying to figure out what they are, what their intentions are. But I'm not worried about it. Let
No,
them
I'm not either. I mean, we're okay. I mean, we're here. And,
well, if it's been going on so, for
Yeah.
centuries or, thousands of years, like all of a sudden everybody's all like, the national defense. And like they're crossing our borders, they're in our space. And I'm thinking, is this really our space? I mean,
yeah,
it's
I was like, what? They've been doing this for a long time. Why are you worried about it now? We should
Right.
be, our planes plow into each other up there a whole lot more than they
yeah,
hit UFOs.
sadly, that is so true. And you know what? For us to be so territorial, like dogs going, you can't come over our space. And then we send like all these aircraft that try
All
and shoot them
space
down.
is
Like,
full of junk that belongs to us.
I
We just
feel
Right.
shoot
sorry
it
for
out
them. Oh my God. Trying to navigate through all that crap up there.
there. I know, right?
Plus, then they've got to try and survive our. I really feel bad when you hear, on Skinwalker Ranch, they're shooting, rockets through the space that they think they're existing in, and digging holes to try and suss them out. And I'm thinking, leave them alone for God's sake, because what harm have they done? I don't
Yeah.
know. I just think, are we that? I don't know. I think sometimes we start things and we're not even sure what we're really getting ourselves into.
Oh,
I'm
somebody wants a piece of coin in their pocket for trying to find something. They want the clout. It's like, oh, well, this is what I found when I was there. Nobody is as good as me. Get the hell out of here.
Well,
Ridiculous.
people say, you can try and maybe, make a buck doing that. But as most people know, there's not a lot of people that can claim they've made anything in this profession.
No,
Um,
maybe a handful of people that you see on Ancient Aliens and things like that, might be able to squeak out a little bit of a living, but
Right.
there was one
not
experience,
my career of choice.
yeah, for me, it isn't either. I'd rather, if I did something and I made money on it, it would be if I made a documentary where I really spent time and effort to tell a story, and then it was picked up somewhere and I made something on it. Great. But to like even the videos that you have examples of, I haven't even put them out on YouTube because I feel, I'm of two minds about the stuff I film. I really believe it is something,
Yeah.
but I have no proof.
No,
You know,
I'm always open, and I'm even skeptical about my own stuff. I'm trying to find the rational explanation. Most
yeah.
of the time I can, sometimes I can't. But, so I get you. I know exactly how you're thinking. That sparkle video that I saw
I
that
was delighted with your
really
response
caught
to
my
that.
eye. Yes. I've seen those, and I have no clue what they are. They're not fireflies. They're too high up in the sky, and they're
Thank you.
different. They're not fireflies. I know what fireflies are. I live in Indiana. Believe me, we have them
And we
everywhere.
have tons of them here.
Oh yeah.
And usually they're in grassy areas or in bushy areas, but they're not up in the sky over the water where there's no vegetation or anything for them to really
What
land on.
are they? They're gorgeous. I think they're beautiful. They mesmerize me when I see them, and I was so tickled when I saw I'm like,
Oh, that
oh
is
my
so
God,
cool.
that is the first video I've ever seen of something I've actually seen, the firefly thing. I call them fireflies. They're not,
Mhm.
but the sparkly videos.
But I have to confess one fraudulent element regarding that is all my videos, I
Mhm.
leave a lot of people like to put music behind them, and I don't
Uh-huh.
because I think then you're
It's
assigning an
distracting.
emotion. Well, yeah, kind of distracting, or you're kind of telling somebody how they should emotionally respond to it.
Hmm.
So I leave the music out. Maybe one day I'll do the music. But the one that you saw, the sparkles, the soundtrack is fraudulent because I was so surprised to see them. It was like F this, F that. So I thought, I'll just put in a nice,
You're
a nice bucolic summer night sound so that it was playable. And I double checked to make sure I didn't leave the original that I sent
Oh,
to you, Greg, because it wouldn't be something you would be proud of. But sometimes these take you by surprise. to the point where you're like, holy, and insert word of
That
choice.
would be me.
Yeah. Oh, it's me. It's horrible. I've got to learn to, And the other thing is sometimes I'm holding the camera in a really uncomfortable, if it's handheld, I'm breathing heavily and it just sounds wrong. When you're sharing the so some of those I'll just replace with other nature sounds. But I get such a kick out of doing the videos because if I do like a CE5 or I try and call them in, it's usually within 15 minutes that something will happen.
Wow.
It can often happen an hour or 2 hours in, but usually it happens relatively quickly, which I find really weird.
Now, what do you do for what is your what do you do for your CE5?
You know, and it's, I watch some of the Stephen Greer stuff and all that. I go outside, I look at the sky with wonderment. Oh, I should say, and I think you know him. Do you know Kevin Briggs?
Yeah.
And you know the Council of Eight?
Yes.
Well, his protocol, I've seen him on a couple of programs and I saw him do a live talk. And he's such a compelling guy. With, for people that don't know, at 8 years old, he had an orb show up in his home that lasted for a couple of weeks that led to an introduction to what he calls the Council of Eight, which are 8 beings or aliens, I'm guessing, from another realm. And I wish I could recall where they're from as far as he's concerned. But anyway, I just really felt his, what he follows is real. So I'll go out and two of the Ort and D are two of the beings that I reside or resonate with, and another one is Shiva. So I'll ask them if it's possible, if it's safe for you to do a fly through or to flash. If you could do so, it'd be greatly appreciated. A couple of people have said, don't you think it's selfish to keep asking them to come? I mean, the price of gas these days, it's like, travel's expensive. I said, I think they've got that figured out.
Yeah.
So I said, no,
I don't think that's a problem for them.
No, I said, I don't think it's selfish because I always say, if it's safe and if it's convenient, and I also feel, and they say, well, then why do you do it? I said, for me, I think it's allowing me to know if I'm able to expand my consciousness connection, not just with them, but with, connecting with other people. And, I'm taking some remote viewing classes, and I do think that they instruct us hugely. Have you ever done the CE5 thing, either of you?
I have not, no.
Greg has not. But I have. And it was years ago. It was back in the 90s. And it was at Gulf Breeze, Florida, where the Gulf Breeze UFO, the big event happened.
Ed Walters, yeah.
Yeah. I was hanging out down there with after my husband passed away. I went down there with the Gulf Breeze research team. They brought me down to get me out, and blow the stink off me, and made me feel better.
Oh, that's good.
And I was down there. I went down several times, and they did these big things on the beach, and we would all sit around and meditate and try to get our head in the right place and try to calm these things down. And there were a few times when our little circle was buzzed by some blue light, about like ping pong ball size blue light that came whipping up out in the ocean, out in the water, the Gulf or whatever. And it flew around each and every one of us, and then took back off again. And it was witnessed by a bunch of other people who were watching us meditate. And at one point down there was Bob Exler, and Bruce Maccabee was down there with his stereo cameras. Yeah. He's recently passed. But yeah, so yeah, I've participated in something like that. This was long before Dr. Greer hit the scene. So.
Yeah, well, because you had that experience, I'm jealous now. That would have been amazing because I'm a baby with all this. Like when I bought the place out in New Brunswick and all this started in 2022, it's really brought me into this from having the experience in my infancy to make this new and exciting. I wonder if I'd, like you, had gotten involved way earlier and started to tell my stories. if I might have just petered out, it would have just gotten old, and I just might have gotten bored with it. So I think maybe there's a virtue in that. It's all renewal. It's all just kind of coming to the surface. And the stuff with the camera stuff, getting the videos is when I got my camera, I paid for the camera, obviously, and I started using it. And I did the CE5, and then I bought these radios to do the protocol. All this stuff didn't happen like magically right away, but I kept, people that like to go fishing are probably happy to sit out on a lake for days and not get anything because they love the process. And I just had a gut feeling. There's people like, I don't know whether you know a fellow named Steve Barone who has a channel called Anomalous Vegas, who gets some phenomenal footage over, by, Andrews Air Force Base and all the stuff out in that area. And then there's another guy, Jason Sirachi, and I'd seen their videos and I'm thinking, this is arrogant, but if they can do it, I want to try it and maybe I'll have luck. So I'm thinking if I tried it and I had luck and gave it some time, I think other people will too. I'm more interested, I think, not so much in the nuts and bolts, but what's behind it. But unless you have the physical evidence to kind of, because remember the skeptics a few years ago were saying, or not just a few years ago, have always said, there's no photographic evidence. There's nothing to support it. But I think now more and more people are finding stuff in their photos and stuff in their videos. And I think it means a lot,
And people forget cases like mine, because my case was from 1983, but I saw what I saw. I had independent witnesses. I had the mark that was left in the yard, which I still have soil from. I had physical damage to my body, to my dog. I mean, there is evidence out there. You haven't heard about it for a reason, but it's coming out. It never went away, and I'm not the only one. So,
God,
there's
it's
that.
I'm who is that? Phil Class? I think that mega, the look on your face. You don't even have to use words. I think it's possible that people like him may have had more, activity, anomalous stuff happen to him than maybe even you did, but he's not allowed to remember it. And there's I'm sure they're laughing up there going, you idiot, you've had more prodding and stuff done to you and you don't even know. And I think this is more common than we realize. I shouldn't say we. Have you had this happen? And I hope you don't mind me asking you questions, but as I'm talking to people now a little bit more than I have, I got a call not long ago from somebody that surprised me that I've known a long time. He said, the whole UFO thing you're into, can we talk? I said, yeah, but it wasn't convenient. I was either working or in the middle of something. I said, yeah, let's arrange a time. And it never happened. And I'm thinking, do you think people are kind of on that precipice of, I want to say something, and they would have if I had been available, but yet when they give themselves some time, they go, I'm going to pull it back in. So it never happened, and I'm not going to ask them if they want to step forward with it because it's not my place. If they do want to come forward, I'm be really happy to support somebody that just wants to talk.
I get that a lot. I hear that a lot sometimes,
But yeah,
and
no,
I'm like you. I just sit there. They know I'm here, and whenever they're ready, they know where to go.
Because I think that when these things, occur to you and to me, like I haven't even mentioned some of the other things that have happened, but I was on a craft when I was probably around 12 years old, where I knew I was walking alone in this, being left to just wander around. That's all I remember. But then I have another memory of being with these tall whites where we were all standing like on a deck with these big expansive windows like you'd see in a modern building that go from floor to ceiling. And we're just standing there looking at these lights that are in the distance at craft, but it wasn't like they were a threat. It's like we were a family just hanging out looking at the window. And I think I sent a graphic. You don't need to show it because I can express it just as easily talking about it.
Okay.
But then it happened again. And it's the exact same scene. We're all looking at the window, but I'm in the back of this room on a riser as a small child, looking at myself and them. Like, how can I be in two places at once, but it was the weirdest. And it didn't feel unnatural at the time,
Mhm.
but these things happen. And what I find fascinating is when you listen to experiencers tell their stories like yours or, other people's stories, they're also unique. So you go, wow, that's interesting. That's never happened to me. But then there's this element that will come out in the story and it's like, whoa. Do you know Sev Talk at all? I mean, I
Oh
told
yeah,
you that I might mention this at some point.
yeah.
But she did a presentation and all of a sudden she said, it's really weird. I don't know how it makes sense, but I was on a craft and I'm standing in a room that was built at 90-degree angles with tall windows from floor to ceiling. And I got goosebumps because it's like, holy crap, that's not lost on me. I don't know whether you've ever experienced that, but it's kind of like when you were when you had that craft in the yard and you looked at it. I remember you were saying, how could people travel in that?
Right.
But
Yeah,
then
I think that time and space are completely different than what we think they are. And that, like, I so many times I've heard folks that will say, "Okay, I went in this craft and it was X, it was a certain size, but then when I got inside, it was like 12 baseball fields inside." I mean,
it reminds me of
it,
those Bugs Bunny cartoons where
yeah,
there's like a Sultan tent that's tiny and they go in and it's like just it goes on forever. So there's some element,
something
and
different.
people aren't all going to collectively make up this stuff if it's not true. It's just like they're gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Seb's
because
been on the show. She was on our show
oh
a
really?
while
I'll
Yeah.
back.
have
Yeah.
to I'll have to find it. Yeah, but that really took me by surprise because it's kind of like she was, and I wrote her and I just said that's interesting, and she said thank you for validating that because I think she
Yeah.
was on a square or at least a room built at weird angles that you wouldn't expect. I said no, I've experienced that as well. But because Greg is the paranormal guy, do you want me to talk a little bit about some weird
Yeah, I
crap?
was just getting ready to ask you. I
I
mean,
could see it on your face.
I wanted to ask you about the paranormal stuff that you've had go on. I wondered if you've been on a paranormal investigation before, and what kind of paranormal events have you
A lot. It's
experienced?
funny when it's peppered through your life, you kind of get, it, you don't really think that there's that much happening. But then
Mhm.
when you write journal about stuff, it's like, oh, that happened and this happened and that happened. Just the other day, it's never ever happened to me before, but I've heard of them. I'm at the kitchen well, you can see the kitchen sink right here. I'm
Mhm.
doing dishes at 11 o'clock a couple of weeks ago. Everything's quiet and serene, but I hate washing dishes, so it wasn't perfect. So all of a sudden, I caught a shadow figure out of my peripheral vision. How do you think I responded to that? And I bet just say there's not a lot of pride
Did you
involved.
did you break a dish? Did you?
No, I just don't. And maybe it sounds sexist. I screamed like a little schoolgirl, but probably a lot more shrill. It scared the living, what out of me because it was the fight or flight thing.
Yeah.
Because frankly, once that happened, the fear didn't linger. I just went back to washing the dishes and I went, well, if you're here, welcome. And I reached out to somebody that I know. I don't know whether you know Dr. Melanie Barton.
I've talked to her before.
She did a bit of dowsing and she felt that it's an ET that's been with me forever, but it was still a paranormal experience that was
Yeah.
weird.
Mhm.
But yeah, the most bizarre one was in 2002. A friend of mine's father, my friend lived out of town, and her mother was in a senior home. She had dementia, but her father, who was living in this home that I was asked to do a little bit of house sitting for, he had broken either his arm or leg, I can't remember, and he was in hospital. And they knew he wouldn't come back because he was showing signs of dementia. So they were making arrangements for him to be, in some sort of a home, a retirement. It wouldn't be in retirement; it'd be more like a facility because he was beyond being able to take care of himself.
Mhm.
So everything was fine, but I'd stay in there most nights. Although I was living, not that far from there, several blocks, but
Mhm.
I'd stay there 3 or 4 nights a week. And then this guy died. And then all hell broke loose. And it scared the living out of me.
Right.
First of all, one of the first things was being in the bedroom after he died. An orb of light was traveling in the hallway above the door frame relatively slowly. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. Could it be car lights? Nope. Could it be this? Could it be that? Nope. There were a few light switches this house was built in the 50s, and they had these push button
Yeah.
lights to go into, and they make a lot of noise when
Yeah.
you push them. And some of them weren't connected to working lights, but they were still there on the wall.
Mhm.
And you could hear these lights being pushed. And this never happened before this fellow passed away.
Mm.
Then, because he was suffering from dementia, it was kind of weird. He would have in the basement, or we found in the basement, a huge bag of burned out light bulbs, because when you're suffering these terrible issues, that's to him logic.
Yeah.
So then we found a bunch of other stuff that doesn't really matter. But so the light bulbs were a curiosity. So I'm in one room doing some computer work, and a persistent. Do you know what a light bulb, the old ones, used to sound like, the incandescent ones,
Oh
where you
yeah.
change,
The
you could hear
buzz.
the filament
Oh yeah, yeah,
right
yeah.
beside my ear, the sound of a light bulb, as clear as day. Another time, I went out, and because I was running a small business at the time, somebody was in the house. I wasn't there. They were expecting me to come back. And they thought I was joking because they were there and they heard me, or they thought it was me. Um, I can't remember who it was, but they heard me go, I think it was Tim. Damn. And they thought it was me joking. And they looked and I wasn't there. Looked to see if my car was on the driveway and it wasn't there. It sent shivers up their spine. Then people would come and visit and see me walk by out of the corner of their eye, but I'd be upstairs and they go, but didn't you just walk by? And I go, no, I never saw that.
That's wild.
It is. And then these Honeywell humidifiers that would turn off, and I think, oh, maybe a fuse is blown, they've gone off, but yet the switch was physically turned to the off position. I took somebody to the airport in Buffalo, New York, which is about 90 minutes from where this place was. Came back later that night, and walking through the door, it was either spring or summer, but it wasn't the winter season where you'd have the heating on.
Mhm.
All the radiators, because it was hot water, like it was a boiler or whatever to heat the hot water in the winter, but the furnace was off. And the banging and clanking on all of the iron radiators I left. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done with this. So
See ya. I'm out.
that was one. What other one that was particularly? Oh God, this was horrible. When my mom bought the house that I'm in now, she passed away years ago, but I'm in this house that was built in 47, and a woman lived here, and probably there were a couple of owners before my mom got it, but I knew the name of the woman that lived here, and I don't know if she died in the house or where she died, but being a stupid 12-year-old, I thought, I'm going to try and contact Mrs. Sampson. Guess what? Mrs. Sampson was open to calls, because
She was open to calls. Is that what you said?
yeah, operators were standing by that night.
All
So I'm
right.
lying in bed. I'm 12 years old, or 11 or 12, and I said, like in a very melodramatic, Mrs. Sampson, if you could hear me. It's crazy. But she thought, you know what? As crazy as you are, I'm going to scare you. So I said, if you can hear me. My mom had
She's oh, you're going to be a little smart ass. Okay, it's on.
yeah, well, no, she
She's
got that.
on.
She had the upper hand in that department. So
Yeah.
my mom had and it's still here, a grand piano downstairs. And I said, can you play a couple of notes on the piano? So if she'd taken lessons or something. So I thought, okay, will she comply? And all of a sudden, bang, like a fist went on the piano. Now it didn't wake
Oh.
my mom up, but I heard it. I swear I heard it, and I'm like, the covers are over my head, and I'm thinking, but you know what? A little kid, likes to play with scabs, right? And pull. So I was like, I'm not going to leave this alone. So I thought, what can I do that's not going to frighten me as much? So I thought, can you maybe if there's a car going, can you can you make a car honking sound outside? And then I thought, well, that could just be a car doing that. It may not be her. So I thought, okay, can you whistle? Oh, but can you whistle outside my bedroom window? Because I'd be too scared if you did it in the room. I swear to God, strike me dead if watch me fall off the chair. No, strike me dead if I'm lying, because this is too weird. Can you whistle outside the window? And I can't, because I'm smiling, because sharing this with you is really weird, because I don't share this with people generally. But I wish I could do it. She whistled Silent Night, super slow. It was so creepy. So, and then the other one, because there's so many, but the other one is I'm watching TV at about 21 years old with a Diet Coke, which I used to be hugely addicted to, sitting on the table beside me. And it's never happened before or since, but the can just lifted about, I used to think it's maybe a foot or two off the table. Might have only been a few inches. I looked and it was off the table. It didn't spill. It went right back down.
Wow.
I have
Wow.
no idea. Now that's carbonation working for you.
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
Look, it might as well have been a foot, because if it was a half an inch and I could see light under it, I'd have still been freaked out.
Yeah. And I guess
That's
the
wild.
other one, just to share with you guys, is I don't know whether you saw the picture of two. They look like scuba tanks.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I did see, I saw
But
those.
those are because I was addicted to Diet Coke. I used to carbonate my own water and make my own pop.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I had two. One was considerably taller than the other. When I say considerably, maybe 6-7 inches taller, but they were obviously different sizes. I decided to get a new tank because these were so old. I thought, well, who knows what they made them out of back in the 40s? There may be toxins. Brought one upstairs. I thought, oh, this is the short one. Let me go get the other one. Brought them upstairs. They're both the same frigging size. It's freaking me out to this day because I had them for 30 years. And when I'd swap one out when one was empty and put the other one in service, it's like, okay, now I've got the tall one. I've only ever had two. But have you ever heard of things physically changing?
Yeah, well, I've heard of people's faces changing, morphine,
Right.
Yeah, no, this was, and people that had seen them knew. There they are.
Yep.
Yeah, one was definitely taller than the other,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
don't subscribe to all the Mandela things that people talk about, but
Uh-huh.
it gives me pause, to think
Yeah.
maybe there's another timeline.
I believe that. My personal feeling is there are multiple, there are infinite number of realities happening all at the same time. There's been times when I've been driving down the street and I come to a stop sign, and somebody blows the stop sign, and I think, "Ooh, if I'd have been just a couple seconds more, he'd have mowed over me." And then I think in
Been
my head,
toast.
it's some other timeline. I just got smashed,
Oh my God, it's so weird that you'd say that because your awareness of that is
Yeah,
so acute because
it is.
the way they drive here is probably very similar to where you drive there. Everybody's driving around in their car in their head. They're
Yep.
ready to make a lane change without signaling or caring. And I'm thinking there should be way more twisted metal injuries and deaths if there
Mhm.
wasn't a component that's kind of keeping us we're
Yeah.
a pretty stupid lot when you think about it. So I'm glad that you survived that. And that happened to me in New York once. Somebody was driving in a car, flew out of a side street onto one of the major the roads. I think it was on I don't know if you know Canal, but we were on Canal and there was a side street.
In New
I
York?
I
Yeah.
would have been dead, but the driver that was driving the car just managed to avoid it. And I do think maybe you're right. We do kind of get onto another track,
Mhm.
but some people don't. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many people that sadly just don't
I
make
think
it
that
through.
folks like us are just a little more, we're, like you said, we're more aware of things that's going on around us that maybe even on a subconscious level, we're more aware, you know, that we've tapped into something
I think so.
inadvertently.
But it's funny.
Maybe on purpose or inadvertently. I don't know.
But I just go back to why did I wait so long? I think of all the wasted years of where I could be doing like paranormal research, which I'd love to do. Now that I'm getting close to retirement, I think I'd love to do that or support people that want to have somebody just listen to them and say, I know I can't really answer questions, but I
Well,
do
okay,
think.
when you're
Sorry,
ready to
Greg.
get into it and you start going down that road, reach out, ask me questions, ask Deb questions. We will definitely lead you down the right path on paranormal investigating.
Oh, yeah. I
Oh
hope.
my gosh. Yeah, well, you know what? If you want to see something move really quickly,
Mhm.
if I was in a house with you two and something happened and there was a door open, you'd go, "Is that one of those fast-moving UFOs that everybody sees?" Um, I think, you kind of, you realize these things aren't going to hurt you.
Right.
It's the fight or flight
Yeah.
thing that one has to kind of get past. But no, I appreciate it. I will reach out to you because I want to buy a basic kit to get started and to be able to
Okay.
just see what might exist here because there's been a number of things. One thing that happened, and I talked to Kathy Martin about it, she said, actually, just because I didn't have a lot of I didn't read a lot of books about the topic over the years because I didn't really have that great an interest. As I
Mhm.
say, I compartmentalized a bunch of stuff that had happened earlier and threw it way to the back. But I always had this sense that there's a basement door right here.
Mhm.
Always had a sense that when I open it, there's going to be a blue light that's just going to be omnipresent and freak me out. That's never happened. But have you ever had a sense of maybe something impending that you're kind of thinking it hasn't happened, but I just have this
Yeah.
sense that it could?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I've had that.
All the time. Yeah.
And also, maybe it happened, but in a different timeline.
That's and that's the thing. We haven't talked about this. I went to see through Kathy's suggestion. She recommended a Toronto
Mhm.
hypnotist
Oh,
that
good.
I went to a couple of years ago, and she was great. But I didn't know when I went that I have this thing called aphantasia. Some people don't think I have it. But have you ever heard of it? Because I'd
No,
never
I
heard
don't
of
know
it.
what.
It's
Mm.
when somebody told me recently, or at least I saw a program where they were talking about seeing things in your third eye, your pineal gland they were talking about. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. I know nothing about it. And they were saying some people don't have an active third eye. And then when they talked about people being able to envision things, um, then when I heard people, if they think about an apple, they can actually picture it. And I
Yeah.
took a deep breath going, are you kidding me? I thought that when people say picture this in your mind, it was like just a figure of speech. Because if I think of an apple,
Mhm.
I know what an apple looks like, so I have a memory of an apple.
Mhm.
But when people tell me they actually see apples,
Mhm.
I'm like, do you see? I mean, yes, I know that you can see and that you know what an apple is, but when you close your eyes, do you actually physically see?
Yeah.
Oh, yikes! And
Is it
so,
bad?
what's that?
Is it bad that I do that?
No, I think you're. They say that aphantasia is a condition where maybe there's a calcification of your pineal gland, or it could be something else. Because I have, and when I dream, I can visualize and all that, but it's in my waking moments that I can't. But somebody says that's if you can conceptualize it, you're fine. But I'm thinking,
Hmm.
but then when people say, I said to somebody that loves movies, I said, well, you go and see a movie a second time. If you clearly can see the movie in your mind, they said, yeah, I can repeat it in my mind. I said, then why do you go and look at it as in a theater or on TV again? They said, it's easier. It's like, okay, well, I
I
just
go for the popcorn.
yeah, man. Hey, me too. I've got a popcorn bowl over here that I should fill tonight.
I
But
go
yeah, I
for the
don't have
popcorn.
any ability to. Can you, Greg? Like, do you literally see something in your mind when you close your eyes? If you try and picture it.
I could see an apple. I could replay Star Wars in my head.
Wow.
I mean,
I'm so envious.
yeah.
So Kathy Martin, she was so great because told her about this, and she did a session with me where she did a light hypnosis,
Mhm.
and she said you may have a band that's been placed over your third eye by an ET, and she tried to remove it, and guess what? It did work, but it
Oh,
works. I have, you're talking about. It's weird that you mentioned popcorn bowls because I'd been to a dollar store a couple of days before she did the hypnosis, and I bought, those cheap plastic with the red stripes on them, those like little
yeah,
popcorn bowls.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I did this thing that Kathy was kind to do for me. She said, play back the meditation several times over 3 days, live with it, do the work, and you may have success. And then I saw, I know it sounds crazy, the interior of an empty popcorn bowl. How heartbreaking is that? But
Right.
I went and got the popcorn bowl to look and see if it's what I was seeing in my mind's eye, and it was. And then I've had these things occur where I have small breakthroughs, but then they are gone. So I would love to have that ability.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's been something that's been basically turned off or turned down, or whether it was just born without that ability.
Yeah, I don't know.
But can you imagine going through life thinking when people say, "Picture this"?
It was
Because
just
when people would lead you through meditations where they're saying, "Okay, ground yourself by visualizing,
Visualizing yourself in your happy place, in your, in the woods and the bird. Yeah, and I do that. I can
yeah,
make
my
myself
happy
go there.
Yeah, my happy place, because you mentioned, is now thinking of the popcorn. But
I'm
and a good
feeling a little
movie.
peckish myself, actually.
Yeah. Well, when you're sitting in a chair
Mhm,
and people are trying to, ground you or help by doing the meditation where you're envisioning from your root
mhm,
chakra and from the bottom of your feet, the roots going into
mhm,
the earth.
mhm.
I'm thinking, oh, I don't know what people are doing. And then I talk to people and they go, I can actually see it. I'm going, what? So I have to just work with that limitation. And I don't think it's a big problem. It's just if I read a book, then I'll say to people, so if you read a sci-fi book, you're like a production designer. You can design all of the sets and that world. Oh yeah. And I'm going, "Ugh,
Mhm.
go away. You're annoying me." It's like too
I,
much.
I can see the character when I read a book, and I don't do it very often because I am self prognosed with ADHD, and it just doesn't hold my attention. But when I do get into it and I start reading it, I can see what I think the characters look like. I can see the background settings. I can see if it's explaining to the reader what they are doing in the moment in this on this page. I can visualize that and what's going on and playing out. But then, like I said, after I don't know a chapter, I'm like, yeah, to hell with this. Let's go play on the internet. So I mean, but yeah, I mean, I could see the difficulty. I guess is the word that I'm looking for, and not being able to see that would be frustrating.
Yeah, and it's funny because I love movies but I still
Mhm.
like books, but I gravitate more towards things that are visual because I get them. And
Mhm.
it's interesting. You describe yourself as self-diagnosed ADD. I've never been diagnosed, but this is why I said to you at the beginning of this, I'm gonna be all over the place because I do think that like you say, squirrel, squirrel. It's like you're over here,
But
and then you're over here.
that's what we do though. I mean, it's just like we're sitting around the coffee table and just talking about whatever. And I
Right.
mean, that's I think it's
That's
that's a beautiful part of our show.
Oh,
We're not structured like so many others.
no, I love it. I did one show that there wasn't a lot of and I knew because I've seen their work that there wasn't a lot of interaction. They kind of let you just go,
mhm.
and I couldn't watch it back. I thought, oh God, I'm gonna be like joining the witness protection program because I'm
My
so
only my
embarrassed.
only problem is I'm always afraid I'm going to step over my guest or Greg, and
Oh,
you know what I
don't
mean.
feel that way.
But I love the chat back and forth, and you'll tell me something, and then I feel like, oh, I can relate to that, and I want to share that with you because maybe you'll feel comfortable that you know that I'm relating to what you have to say. I don't want to, I have to not talk too much. I don't. It's not the Debbie show. It's
Yeah,
I'm one
but
of
you
those,
know
I
what?
guess.
When you
You know what I mean?
interact with people, I don't mean you. I mean you in the broad sense.
Yeah.
I think when there's a dialogue, it sets off sparks where wow,
Yeah.
that is real. Like you've said a couple of things tonight, and I'm like, thank you. That reminds me, blah blah blah. Because I've never seen you ever, and I don't know Greg's work as well, but I've never seen you step on people. And because I'm excited, I'm talking more than I normally would. Lucky for you that you don't have to endure this every day. But it's such a pleasure. So you want to get it all in. But I think that
Well,
conversation.
yeah. I was just going to say you're exactly right because and like we said at the beginning of the show, this is your platform. We're just kind of here to welcome you here and let's talk about you and get to know you. Um, we've never had we've never had a structured show.
Oh,
Oh, I'm so glad you don't.
We've been doing this off and on for 20 years now, and
Have you really?
yeah, we started.
we started on Skype, audio
Yeah,
only.
in 2000 and no, actually, it's just under. It's been 18 years, but 2004.
Mm.
Wow. Well, you both.
And then then we went for 10 years, and then we went for 9 years, and then we were off 10. So yeah,
I
about
got
19
bumped to
years.
second shift at the factory, and he moved away, so we kind of went on an extended hiatus for a while.
Right.
So,
Oh, I knew you worked. You worked in the auto industry, and I know that you haven't been involved in it for a while, but the cars that I've had, the last couple of cars, have been built in Indiana, and I thought, I wonder if
okay.
Deb might have put it on the side view mirror, or
I,
but they
I,
were.
actually, I probably repaired the circuit board that runs the brains in it because that's what
Oh
I do.
wow! Well, speaking of running the brains, this is where I have a bone to pick with you, Deb.
Uh-oh.
And
What I
yeah,
do?
that's right. When you talked about being tested and having a Mensa
Yeah.
IQ at this point, I go through life feeling depleted, and I'm thinking when people like you say that you got this uptick, I'm thinking they're taking it from me every time somebody gets an uptick. They're borrowing from me. So it's getting to that. I'm kidding when I say that, but wouldn't it be nice to just wake up and like you and just feel like, okay, I'm all of a sudden understanding this math equation because math was never my strong suit. But did that happen to you that you would just discover that you had this like uncanny ability to know something you didn't before?
I don't know. It's hard. It was hard. It was after the June 30 '83 incident, and I felt like I pretty much had a nervous breakdown. And as I was
Wow.
coming out of that, slowly, I began it was like I woke up out of a sleep, like I'd been asleep for the first 22 years of my life, and I woke up. That's the only way I know how to describe it. And I started to notice things that I hadn't noticed before. And I started to become curious about things that never interested me before. I started taking stuff apart. I used to take radios apart to see how they work and collect it up. See, it was a slow and subtle. I didn't just wake up one morning and all of a sudden,
Yeah,
I'd
no, it would
always
be.
dreamed. I dream in color and in 3D. And then I started having those lucid dreams after that as well. So I don't know what the connection is there, but
I
I
It's
have to
still
ask.
couldn't balance my checkbook till I was 35. So
oh God, yeah, exactly. I
I,
just think why bother? Just spend, enjoy it.
well, I had
right?
no
Hey,
way. That's probably
I
why.
mean, when it's gone, it's gone. You can't spend it
Yeah,
more. I
No,
mean,
that's
no.
true too. That's true too. But
yeah.
some people exist on a huge amount of debt. Luckily, I'm not like that, so I will never allow myself to get into that
Now, something that
situation.
you just mentioned, Deb,
Yeah.
and it never occurred to me. Do people not always dream in 3D?
I do.
I
I
have
don't,
always dreamt in 3D.
yeah, I have too, but I have met many, many people who don't, and don't even understand what I'm talking about. And in the Mensa thing, I scored in the top 1/2 percentile in spatial relations, which is the ability like to visualize things in 3 dimensions. I think that's why I was such a good beautician, because I could hold a piece of hair up and I see in my mind, if I cut it at a certain width, if I cut it at this angle, it's going to lay down this way. But if I cut it at this angle, it's going to lay down a different way. And I could
Right.
see that in my head.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and they told me my aptitude was at like architectural and engineering, with that kind of
Mhm.
visual, be able to see that. Hell no. I went to the beauty school. But I did end up, it's funny because when I worked at General Motors, I had a beauty school certificate and a high school diploma. And here I am, I shouldn't have said General Motors. Here I am fixing the circuit boards that fail out of in-circuit testing. I mean, but the engineers showed me how to do things and I just learned it real quick. And
Right.
that was an aptitude. I like electricity. I don't know why.
Right.
But
Right. Well, you like tech. You do. Now,
yeah,
Ian.
I do. I just made my own music box. I followed Greg's footprints there, and
Wow.
it's triggered by a motion sensor. So
Yeah.
we're going to use it in paranormal investigations.
Is that something you guys made from scratch?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
made this, and
Well,
there's
is that
it's
a
set
spirit
up
box?
pretty.
No.
No, this is a music box. It's motion detection. It's well, here I can turn it on for you.
And Greg, my son, has a 3D printer, and he 3D printed the prototype tonight.
Wow.
So
We're
need,
weirdos.
need to change the battery before we do our next investigation.
Yeah,
But
you're trying. That's almost you're tempting the shadow figure to come back. I was like, here it comes. That is so
wow.
cool. Would you use that in conjunction with the spirit box to set the sort of set the mood?
We actually, how do we have it set up? We had it set up in a room. We had this music box. We had I made a REM pod that we were testing in the field testing, and both of them worked exceptional.
REM pods pick up. Tell him what REM pods do, because a lot of people don't know what that is.
There's an EMF field, electromagnetic field, and what the REM pod does, it monitors and measures the ambient area around the antenna. So when something comes into that EMF field, it'll trigger the REM pod as okay, there's something close and it's about to touch me.
Something comes into the close to the antenna that is a fluctuation in the electrical energy around it, then it triggers that.
Do you find that more for spirit, or could it be for craft?
It could be for anything. It could be anything that'll change the electromagnetic field around you. It'll pick it up.
I want one. Are you selling them?
I am actually, and it's funny that you say that.
Info commercials start now.
Right, and the ads start now, people. I'm actually going to start making these, but I'm going to customize them a little more. So I'm going to take them out of this black case. I'm going to put them in something a little more aesthetic, and then we're gonna put them up on the Boonville, Indiana Paranormal Society, which is the group that I'm with. We're going to start selling.
I very much
products.
Interested.
Well, I've got. Go ahead.
Is there? Do you have a page that I can look at the description of what it is, and then maybe you can tell me what the the basic kit would be? Because if I have no talent whatsoever, I'm going to have all this stuff, and clutter is. I hate to tell you, but clutter is my thing. And it's terrible.
There's no website as of yet. We're still in the infancy of producing. Everything that I've done right now has been a prototype. Just to make sure that they can be built, make sure that they work. This is going to be really loud, and I apologize.
No, go for it.
So when you get close to the antenna,
Because because our bodies put off an electromagnetic field. So
Right.
anything that moves through there
Yeah.
will trigger it.
When you guys are doing investigations and you're kind of like chilled, it's a really nice night, you guys are ready to go to sleep or just relax, and that goes off because it's such a startling sound. How do you feel? Excited, or is it like
as a paranormal investigator,
I get excited. I'm like, who's here? You want to talk to me?
You never run from, you run to.
Yeah.
So when
You
it
never
goes
what?
off, you never
Don't run
run
away.
from, you always run to.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to be. It's the only way to really. It's like if you're gonna jump into a lake, you don't just go in toe first and then just jump. Do it.
Just do it.
If you're in this field and you're running the opposite way, you're not really good at
You
what
don't
you
need
do.
to be here. That's right.
Right.
No,
Right.
exactly. No, I really feel like you initially were saying, or we were talking about, if there's a correlation between the UFO and the the paranormal, other paranormal things,
Mhm.
I want to check it out. And
Well-
Pam Nance, she does all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think Pam. Well, she's amazing. Like, I mean, so intuitive. So I'm kind of envious because, and I hate to use the word envious because it's not like I'm jealous where I
Yeah.
don't want the wonderful things for them. It's just like I want to try it too. I want to.
Well, I can tell you that you have to have, and this is going to sound weird, you have to have the yin to your yang. So I'm sorry, Deb. I didn't start seeing any UFO activity
Here we go
whatsoever.
again.
I love you.
Yeah.
You're the best ever. But I didn't start seeing anything until I met Deb. And it always seemed to tie in with paranormal investigations.
Mm.
And it's been like that now for 20 years since, we have known each other forever and we're older than dirt now. But an example, I mean, after meeting Deb, I saw a big triangle in the southern part of Marion County in Indianapolis or Indiana. I mean, it was huge. It would rock back and forth, and the lights would go opposite of each other every time it moved, right? And there were blue lights underneath it. And I watched it because we did a motor paper route. So it had 52 miles to deliver papers. So I'm out in the country and I'm seeing this thing move. And I go to the Walmart for something stupid in the morning that we needed to get. And I come out and it's gone. I get home and I'm looking out the basement window and there's 7 black helicopters flying in that direction. Okay. And this is like after an investigation. We had a team meeting with Bibbs. And I had 2 anomalies that night. I had one, it looked like a fireball, came down out of the sky into the treetops and disappeared. And it was as bright, illuminating as possible. And then I got home and I sent Deb this picture. I had a UFO over the cornfield behind my house. And when you look head on at it, it looks like an airplane with an airplane's headlight on the nose. But it was traveling north and south. And I'm going east to get into my driveway. And that was after a paranormal event. So it just seems
crazy.
like, the correlation between it, I think, is strong. And Deb and I, we've been saying that for years, that there's some kind of tie. One of the things I like to tell, the listeners, and then they're like, Greg, shut up. The Mothman and the bridge in Pennsylvania that went down. People saw the Mothman, and shortly afterwards, they saw UFOs in the vicinity after this disaster. So there's got to be a hand in hand.
Well, I think when you've had direct experience through knowing Deb, doing the work with her, and then all of a sudden, it's really weird about we stupid humans. We get all these God winks, all these little things that are telling us this is so, this is so, this is so. Then we still kind of doubt a little bit. But
All
yeah,
the little
that to me,
synchronicities.
yeah, to me, it sounds like, Greg, that was an absolute direct introduction that brought that into your. I wonder what it is that cemented, that reality or that potential to occur for you until you had the connection or no,
Mhm.
or no Deb. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's really weird. And it's so weird when you talk about that UFO. Was it a solid triangle or was it translucent? You could see through the points of light
No,
or
it was solid. I
yeah.
could see the corners where the lights were underneath it.
Wow. Well, and it's so weird. We kind of have what do you call it? Disclosure in a way because there's just so much evidence. So do you really need the government to go, yeah, it's true? It's like personally, I like to have it so that I can say told you so. But other than that, it's like
Right.
because there's just too much evidence. I mean, when Greg says that, I know Greg's not making that up. I know you're not making up all your encounters. I mean, why the hell would you?
Right.
And why would you stick to it for all these years?
Oh
It's
Right.
yeah.
real. I don't
I
know whether
always ask why do people think that anybody would, well, at least back in the day, why would anybody want to be famous for this? Not
oh
me,
God, I
you
no,
know?
when I worked in film and TV, I worked with a lot of actors that were, well known, and I thought, can you imagine when they leave the studio and, go out into the, public because they,
Mhm.
they have to at some point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that notoriety for a million. Well, they make more than that for
Yeah.
millions. If I think about it, maybe I'm going to say, yeah, maybe it's not such a bad idea. But no, I like anonymity. I mean, it works
Yeah.
for me.
But I don't want to
Um,
be famous for this, and I'm not a millionaire either. I still had to work in a factory for 15
I
years.
know it's like crazy. I'm happy, but if you ask me, would I want to, where I think this pays dividends though? If there is going to be a disclosure, I feel I'm like you probably do, in a really good place of just acceptance and let's see what comes and let's not fret about it. But the ones that are tied into religious dogma and all of that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can only imagine how that's going to be a total mind,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a pleasant thing for a lot of people, but it
Uh-uh.
seems to be ramping up. Oh, the one thing that I don't know whether you saw those, did you see the Cube videos?
Oh yeah.
I didn't make it clear because they were, and you don't need to show them, but there's a fellow in Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri, that in 2021, in October 2021, just a regular guy. He was an electrician, got out of his car when he saw one and filmed it. I never knew about this until my encounter and then researched on the web to see if anyone else had anything similar. And then I found his. I'm like, this is identical. I reached out to him and then, do you know Margie Kay that works out of
Yeah.
Missouri? She had me on her show about the cubes. And then somebody from another chapter of MUFON was doing a talk about the cubes and wanted to use my footage. So when you compare his with mine, I mean, to me, it's absolutely identical. But because they're up there, it's hard to know whether maybe mine is a smaller version or a larger version. But even when they're still, they rotate. It's the weirdest thing. But the thing that was odd to me is why twice on the 15th of December of 2023, just a few months ago, I got it on video coming through twice. And then on the 19th, I would have had the camera out, on the 16th, 17th, and 18th. Problem is, we had a winter that was not snowy, but cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. So the
Yeah.
next date that I could put it out was on the 19th, and two more of them came through on the identical path.
Mhm.
And I'm like, they're omnipresent. We know these things are omnipresent, but why over my house on repeated? And that's the thing. These are, when you look at them, they're nuts and bolts, right? This is just
Right.
uh, but when you worked in the auto industry, can you imagine somewhere out, maybe in a different universe? We don't know. Somebody had to budget for them. Somebody had to decide to put them into production. Somebody had
Hmm.
to look at our little pea-sized planet and said, let's build a fleet of these and send them over to them. To me, that's the fascinating part is
Hmm.
the just all of this, all of the background about how they got this, you know, um, this craft into our atmosphere from something that was designed and manufactured? Because that's your background. You understand all that.
And I feel like, there's possibility that it's another planet in another galaxy or something, but I don't necessarily think they literally like flew here from. I think they have found a way to bend space and time and kind of basically just step through a doorway from where they're at to where we're at. You see what I mean?
Hyperspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that thing in my backyard. I don't,
Mhm.
at this point in my life, and in retrospect, I don't feel like that it was a craft that flew somewhere. I feel it served some other purpose because, like you said, you heard me say, I can't see 6 kids in that thing flying across the galaxy. It did something else. There's some way else they're getting here, and that's not necessarily flying from point A to point B, in a linear line or whatever.
It
Like we
can't
do.
be.
No,
And,
there's
and,
no
and they
way.
talk about how they can, fold space and time like it's a taco, and they can
Mhm.
just go through it instead of, traveling, these huge distances. I
But
don't in the back.
they still had to make the vehicle that
I
did
know.
that.
Can you imagine just the brilliance and the
Yeah,
and
my
but
brain couldn't do it.
and my feeling is, you know, we think everything is so complicated, but I bet this is kind of a silly thing to say because it kind of doesn't make sense. But I think basically it's probably so simple.
Mhm.
We complicate everything, and maybe what
Yeah.
they're doing is so frigging simple.
Mhm.
My feeling is too, and this kind of concerns me about our world is we drill into it, we take from Mother Earth all of her lifeblood, her oil, her minerals, blah 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 blah, and then when we figure it out, there's going to be no resources to make the stuff. So it's kind of like by the time we get there, maybe it's too late. But
Yeah.
maybe, Deb, what you're saying is true. We just have to just get onto that timeline where that isn't the
We just have to learn how to do it the way they're doing it.
there's a new show, I don't know if you've seen it, called Dark Matter. I think it's a Netflix show, but it's all
It
about
is. Yeah.
it's you would like it, Deb, because it's all about different timelines.
I'll
And
have to check that out. No, I haven't.
yeah,
I've
it's
been kind of
are you
distracted.
watching it, Greg?
I've watched it before.
Oh, maybe I've got the wrong time. This is a new show just in the last.
Oh,
Oh my God. I'll send you, anyone listening
link.
to this will
Yeah.
wonder what it is. I'll send you the link because it's about they've designed this box, this technology that you get into, and it will take you to another time and place. But of course,
Okay.
Oh, I'd
it's
love to
fraught
see
with
that.
all kinds of complications. They haven't quite perfected it yet.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, no, I'll send you that because it does seem like
Cool.
it's right up your alley with
Mhm.
Yeah.
that kind of an interest for sure. But I think the whole thing is such, you know, I just wish we were at a place where if they, whoever they are, could step forward and work with some rational human being to at
Mhm.
least give us a little bit of a sense of what's going on.
Yeah. Maybe
And
that'll happen. I'm hopeful.
I'm kind of hopeful too that, and I don't think it's going to be something other than we're just going to wake up one day and on the news, it'll have just happened and we'll find it out.
Yeah.
Is that your feeling, or do you think we'll never know?
I do think we'll know. I think it'll be a slow roll. But
Right.
I do think we'll eventually, it'll be undeniable. They'll reach a point where it'll be undeniable. I
But
really
it's
feel
so
that.
ironic. You watch a lot of shows, podcasts where people are so interested in the movement since 2017, where so much has happened. And then
Yeah.
2 weeks go by where nothing's happened. And they go, oh my God, nothing's going on. I'm going, are you kidding me? You're going to have the lulls. And they
Yeah.
don't appreciate the fact that, it's not going to be every day you can have the equivalent of a front page story. But,
If I, if I came out publicly 40 years ago. And from what I saw from 40 years ago till now, I am extremely uh, hopeful and astounded by what I never dreamed I would see what we've seen. So, you know, of course, I got a broader vision, and so a lot of, and people today, I feel like they want everything right now. They're in that mindset. They want it all right now. That's why they have huge debt because they go out and they buy everything they want right now.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Uh, in my day, when you wanted something, you worked your ass off and then you saved your money up and then you went and bought it and you didn't have it till then. But now it's all right now, hurry up. And I think that spills over into disclosure because people expect right now, hurry up. I want now,
It's so true, and it's so sad because if you always can just go out until you run out of money and just get something on a whim, I don't think you appreciate it. Like when you had to
Right.
save up, put layaway or however you could
Oh, I love
dream about
layaway.
it. Those dreams about getting it were probably more fun than actually having it.
Look, I put a couch in layaway about a month ago, and I go in every week faithfully from with my little coin purse, and I'm so excited for the day I finally get to get it, and I'm not going to have a credit card bill. It's
Oh,
going to
that
be
you
paid
know
for.
what? That's the thing. Avoid
Yeah.
that, avoid that. But when you go in and you put X number of dollars down, you ask them if you can just lay on it for a few minutes, just to kind
No,
of like
I walk over and look at it and sit down
just
on it. And
stroke it lovingly.
yeah, the one I actually am getting is in the back already there, but I'll go sit on the go out in the showroom floor and sit on it and say, pretty soon.
Well, I
I
hope
love
you don't have
layaway.
any dogs or cats that are gonna like in the first week just tear the crap
Oh,
out of it.
I don't. Now, I do have a couple of little Yorkies, but they're not destructive. They just lay there. They don't even
No,
shed.
that's good.
God
I know
love them.
that's great. Well, I really hope that you enjoy your couch, and maybe we'll see you. Well, you podcast from it one day. If it's too
I'll
comfy, you might.
podcast from the
Yeah,
couch. I'll take my laptop there and do it from the
I can
couch.
just see you getting too comfortable, and I'd be going, "Wake up, wake
I
up!
Right.
know. Greg
Deb,
will.
why are you snoring?
Why are you snoring?" But I do think that the whole thing about being responsible. The only thing about you, Deb, though, is if I ever had anything that I wanted to loan you that was made of like my camera, for example, I'd be so afraid you'd be like taking it apart and seeing what's in it.
I would never do that to somebody else's stuff, only to my own.
Yeah. Are you still doing that? I mean, that's so
Um,
cool.
you know what? Sometimes I buy stuff at the Goodwill because I know I can tear it apart. I think I might be able to use parts of it for something else.
Wow. Maybe in another realm, you were building craft that have come here.
Maybe.
If you're a circuit board an expert can
Look,
work on those.
I used to solder things that were so tiny that I had to use a microscope. And one time I
Wow.
had to replace a bunch of ICs that had the tiny little legs on each side. I had to do it by hand and I had to do like 20 boards. And then we sent them up to engineering. And a few days later, these two nerdy guys for engineering came down and asked my supervisor, who's the girl who fixed these? And my supervisor said, she's over there. And she waved at me to come over. They wanted to talk to me. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, oh shit, what did I do now? And he said, did you hand solder these? And I said, yes, I did. He goes, we had to look at them under the microscope to make sure you even changed the part. That they were so impressed with my soldering, which I thought, you
Wow.
guys, they don't know how to solder. The engineers don't know how to solder worth a
Right.
damn. So yeah, that's just my thing. Yeah, and it's weird that I was never formally trained. I just learned. So it's
Yeah.
maybe I did it somewhere else in some other life. I don't know.
No, you give me a soldering iron and a place to work. 5 minutes later, the fire department's on its way.
And I worked with unleaded solder, no lead solder, which my irons were 600 degrees.
You were
They
working
were.
with lead?
I was working with no lead,
Oh,
unleaded.
good, 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 good.
But my soldering irons were 600 degrees. They have to be a lot hotter, and you have to
Good,
work a
good.
lot faster, or you'll burn the whole board up. That's why
Well,
they couldn't believe I did it by hand, and it actually
I
worked.
can't believe you didn't burn yourself unless you had enough
Oh, honey, I
protective
burnt
gear.
myself plenty of times.
Oh my God. Yeah, life is, the things we do to get through the
Mhm.
day, to be able to pay for things like luxurious
I know.
couches.
And
It's like,
food.
you earn it. You earn it for
Ghost
Yeah.
sure.
ghost hunting parts.
Ghost hunting parts, yes.
Oh yeah, well, guess who will be in the soldering department when that
Yeah.
when that thing rolls out?
Yeah, that's
Are
right.
you going to go offshore to have them made, or is it going to be something that you can keep up with? Maybe you and Deb build them and build them to
Um,
order.
I don't know. It just really depends. I don't want to go offshore
Mm.
with them at all. I don't think that. I mean, they're not hard to do. I mean, I knocked one out in 45 minutes.
Wow.
And there'll be more of, I think what I'm looking at is a made to order. So you hit me up, I make it, I send it to you. So
Yeah,
I think
if there can be made with pride in the USA on it, it's going to be a lot better than
Yeah.
made in Taiwan, wherever. But it's
Made
just
with love by Greg.
well, I mean, if we did go offshore with them, the price would jump threefold.
Yeah.
I
And we
can
don't want
sell
to do that.
I can sell these for $50. And if you buy a REM pod, you're paying 200.
Yeah, they're expensive. That's why we figured out how
Yeah.
to make our own, because we couldn't afford to buy the new ones.
Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Everything that's a hobby, like for me, filming this. You know what? I don't know whether you guys are interested in doing any of this videography, but Psionics that makes. I bought two of them. One's called a black and one's called a pro. Pro's slightly better, but for shooting the night sky or for just maybe if you're doing paranormal work, the price points come so down on the black. It's like $399. It was like 800 not that long ago, but they're making way for new product. And I've looked at the new stuff and it doesn't do for what I want to do anything that this cheaper model will do. Because you work within your budget and
Yeah.
and all
Yeah,
is
100%.
good.
And the thing is that with too, as a matter of fact, I just bought a mini action cam, so like a GoPro,
Mm.
and I figured out how to make those full spectrum.
You're going to take off that little filter and away you go. Can
Yep.
you crank up the ISO so that you can see in the darkness if it's because I was looking if you have luck with that, I'd be dying to hear how it goes because I'd like to get other cameras and I don't want to I can't afford to keep buying cameras because
Right. Yeah.
I will be
Well,
living out under the stars.
right. Yeah. What I have found is that if you have a attachable IR cannon or attachable night vision, you can get them, the little cubes. If you run that with the full spectrum camera, that will be 100% night vision. And that's what we're running. We have a Faz cam right now that we bought from Ghost Stop. That's exactly what they did. They took a camera, they took the lens out of it, they put an IR light on it, and they charge $279 for the pack. Doing it this way, you do it yourself. I just paid $20 for a little action cam off eBay because I'm going to start working on it and figuring it out. The light cannon, I have 3 of them in my box that I've had for 30 years. And that's all you're going to need to get them to work. So, and I could turn around and sell those for $50. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it doesn't have to break the bank to do a hobby like this. And that's what kills me about major shops like that, because that's exactly what they did. They threw the little private label on it. And now they're selling it for $279.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you're doing it. If you make a little bit of money on it, great. If you make a little bit more than a little bit, that's good too. But it sounds like you want to offer something you're proud to sell that's going to give somebody a useful, tool that they can use in the field rather than going, I don't give a crap. Once they pay for it, I don't care what happens to them. You want to make sure that's going to be probably a product that's going to match their needs and be I think something that's I'm into it. I'm really into it. But I think that what's really interesting about you doing this is now we live in an age where these cameras, like you talk about the affordability. When Deb, you had your experience in the 80s, we didn't have any of this stuff to catch them in the act. Now we kind of do. But now people do. You watch all these shows and there's lots of people like me that are getting, good video clips and all that. It's got to be it's hard to deny that all of it is and prosaic. So and it's the same thing with the ghost hunting when you go in, and I don't know enough about it. I just know I saw a documentary that Pam Nance was involved with, and I think it was like on Discovery or whatever, and I just thought that is so freaking cool. So
it is very cool, but we've been doing it for so long. I mean, Deb and I, we've been doing paranormal investigating ever since we met
Mhm.
together, and
That's how we met.
it that is how we met.
Yeah,
And
very,
it's
very
not
cool.
it's not a point now of me proving to you that there are ghosts. It's me gathering the evidence, giving it to you, and you take away what you want to take away. Because in the beginning, everybody's gung ho. I want to make you believe.
You want to which? I'm sorry, couldn't want to what?
Everyone's like, I want to make you believe.
Oh
And
gosh, if
ghosts.
people believe, great. If they don't, it's up to them.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't think that some of the stuff that we capture are even spirits or ghosts or anybody
Right.
that was ever alive here. I think sometimes we capture things that are in some other dimension right here with us at the moment,
I heard you
Mhm.
mention that on
Mhm.
one of
Yeah.
your shows. I think that you could be talking to somebody just like you,
Yeah.
trying to find a ghost, but they're
Mhm.
finding you here on planet Earth, and you're
Yeah.
having
Right.
this. Yeah,
And
this stuff.
so in doing that, we will will help bring disclosure, I guess, and if you want to call it, awareness of other life,
Right.
So
Wow, it will be interesting if there is, more forthcoming that we can,
mhm.
if we can pin our hopes to something that will give us more.
Yeah.
If there's something that will just show that the relationship between, the ghost hunting and me filming things that look like pills out by the ocean, I would
Mhm.
love to know that. But it is kind of nice to always have something to chase. Once we have nothing to chase,
Right.
you'll just be lying on that couch, Deb, saying it's just comfort food.
Come see my new couch.
Yeah, so I don't
Speaking of
know. I'm worried that you guys are thinking I'm not going to stop talking. So I
Ryan.
don't know when you want to close this.
I was just getting ready to say we probably ought to wind it down. We're going on 2 hours now, which is great.
Get out of
But
here. Missing
no.
time.
But
I
no, but
declare
listen,
missing time.
listen. I want you to come back because this has been so much fun, and I really
Oh
enjoyed
my
the
God, you two have
conversation
been.
with you.
You know what the problem is with you, two of you? You make it too easy. Because you can meet people that want to, I think, play devil's advocate, and then you feel, well, are you with me or against me? So talking
Nah.
to like-minded people, this
Yeah.
has been such a pleasure.
Yes. Oh, I just really thank you for bearing with us on our technical difficulties that we've had this evening. We got off to a bumpy start, and we kind of got shorted on some time, so we went over a little more than we usually do. And
Maybe it all made it better. All
I
these
think
things at the
so.
beginning.
Yeah,
And we know gremlins have their fun, and they
they
had
do
their
their
fun with
thing.
us tonight. So
Yeah. Well,
Right.
we won, so
yeah, I've enjoyed this immensely. So I'm going to stop talking and let you guys close your show.
okay.
Are you going to be on the other side just for a second?
Yeah.
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 Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for coming on, Ian. Hey, you guys, if you like this show, remember you can go ahead and click the like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications on the YouTube channel. You can also catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podomatic.com, and you'll catch us next Thursday night. Wait, are we doing a replay next Thursday night? Is that next Thursday?
I don't know.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know. Well, wherever, you'll see us next Thursday night. You guys take care. Have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.
Bye.